Imagine waking up early in the morning to a phone call from your boss who says that his fatherland wants to invade Ukraine, and because you work in a Russian StratComm, you have to prepare a reason to justify this invasion, a casus belli. So how do you do that? The questions that you have to ask yourself include: what is your target audience? First and foremost, you gotta prepare a message for your internal audience, because for the reasons I'll explain later, you think the West is not gonna support Ukraine. Which message is gonna have the biggest, most powerful impact on your target audience? Which channels to be used to deliver this message? The scheme looks like this: analysis, planning, implementation, feedback. Then analysis, then planning, implementing, and receiving feedback. Then analyzing, then planning, then implementing, and so on. Here is when the Russian PsyOps continuously suck, by the way. And sometimes here. But it's a whole different story. Phase 1. Analysis. There was none, and we've spent all of our funds on girls, vodka, Turkish resorts, cocaine, and Tesla cars. Phase 2. Instead of inventing a bicycle, we can always go with Nazi, because Adolf Hitler was the biggest nemesis of Russian people, and it was the only victorious war in the modern history of Russia. And I think that it will provoke those familiar vibes in the Russian soul, fighting Nazi, liberating Russia from this fascist regime. And not only Ukrainians, the whole West is Nazi, because they are foreign, they hate peaceful Russian people, they shit in our houses, they drop bottles and syringes on Russian streets and want us to suffer. The mustache doesn't fit Ukrainian president well though, because he's Jewish Ukrainian. But who cares? We always have some talking head who will convince Jewish people are fascists and Israelis are the biggest anti-Semites. And the Russian population will swallow that, because they generally don't like them either. Also, we will have this noble mission of protecting the people of Donbass, the state that never existed before Russia invented it. We should convince the Russian population and the whole world that Ukrainian Nazis were killing Donbass people a lot for 8 years, and a lot means probably millions. Of course, nobody's gonna check the reports of the UN representatives, those OSCE monitoring mission that was stationed in the Donbass for 8 years, expecting Ukrainian army to finally start killing somebody, because people out there are stupid and they usually don't do fact-checking. The more we scream about 8 years of bombing Donbass, the more people will eventually start believing in this. But what about the people who don't really care about the people of Donbass? Let's scare the shit out of them and say that Ukraine and the West was gonna invade fatherland, Russia and Belarus. Of course, technically Ukraine is a bit smaller in terms of the size and the power, but we can say they had some deadly biological weapon designed together with the evil Western scientists. Let's say there was a bunch of the US-Ukrainian military labs where they were growing genetically modified birds carrying lethal viruses and preparing to wipe Russian people off the globe because they hate us so much for no reason. That sounds good and will definitely work, and we can always gather the UN Security Council meeting in case we need it. And we should also convince everybody that this invasion will only take 2-3 weeks, and to shut up the possible protesters, we will forbid calling it a war, and instead we will be calling it a special military operation in Ukraine, and we will drop all the pacifists into prison for 10-15 years for protesting against it. Because we fucked the freedom of speech and because Russian media never lies. Phase 3. Let's involve all kinds of state-controlled Russian media, all the TV propagandists, YouTube bloggers in both Russia and Ukraine, and let our tallest macho express the true feelings of Russian people towards Ukrainians, which sums up to the following. They are our stupid youngest brother who speak non-existing language and always belonged to Russia before evil Americans turned them into Nazis and made them kill people of Donbass to provoke Russia. Anyways, our population is stupid enough to believe in all this, as well as some people on the West. We should also involve our biggest bot farms with their headquarters in Olgina, because nothing on the internet is as convincing as hordes of anonymous people copy-pasting the badly Google translated messages, and it also brings rubles. So the invasion starts and suddenly you realize that you're screwed. Not only because the world can finally see the true traits and achievements of your country, and I'm not talking about Tchaikovsky or Dostoevsky, I'm talking about numerous cases of rape, loot and mass murder, but also because your fatherland instantly becomes the country with the biggest amount of sanctions placed in the freaking galaxy. Appears that there was this Budapest Memorandum in 1994 between the West and your country, by the way, where you promised to respect the Ukraine's independence and territorial integrity, and then you violated it, and for some reason Westerners do kind of care about agreements. They really do. You could really do that? And then apparently Ukraine became really close with European countries while you are not watching. Also, it appears that Ukrainian army spent 8 years training to kill your soldiers had they invaded, which they do. And then the West is giving them money and equipment and weapons, of course, and those 100 battalion tactical groups that you collected all over the Russia for this invasion are getting wiped out. Phase 1. There are quite a few problems. The biggest of them is that I cannot buy spare parts for my newly acquired Tesla, but there are a few others. The world, including leading economies as well as developing countries, wholeheartedly supports Ukraine. We cannot win. It's impossible. We just cannot. Period. Also, in order to protect our slaves, our God's chosen Slavic nation from those Western debunkers, Roskomnadzor blocked the access to Facebook and Instagram. And to make things worse, our president decided to mobilize 1 million people. I need vodka. Phase 2. First of all, we gotta remove the international support of Ukraine, and in order to do that, we can use the anti-American moods in the international society and convince them that Ukraine is only a pawn in this game between a West and Russia, and people would like to stay out of those politics. We should also scare everybody with our mighty nukes and make our big guy and other speakers scream about it in the media 24/7. And in order to reinforce this message, we can also say that Ukraine is going to use a thermonuclear dirty bomb, which makes no sense, but it sounds dangerous, and we can always gather the United Nations Security Council to prove it. Phase 3. Our international media unfortunately dead, but we can always use our guerrilla approach instead, involving the shady websites in English, copy-pasting the news from the Russian media. We'll need English-speaking speakers. Luckily, our foreign ministry spent $300 million buying the loyalty of Western politicians and public figures. They will be spreading the narratives of our fatherland among the Westerners. Those include: stop supporting Ukraine, helping Ukrainians protect themselves leads to escalation of conflict, peaceful Russia was provoked to invade and murder Ukrainian civilians, if you don't obey Russia, it will nuke you. Fear Russia, listen to Russia, do what Russia says. Also, don't trust your government. Western government bad, Russia good. After a while they will start thinking that these narratives belong to them, and that the only way to save West is to destroy Ukraine. Oh my god, what a year. I had to sell my Tesla and buy Niva because you cannot buy modern cars in Russia anymore. But anyways, what's next? Phase 4 analysis. Fuck that. I will better get on my Niva and go to Georgia. I heard that they still have McDonald's in Tbilisi.